Good evening and welcome to the Town of Smyrna Beer Board meeting. Today is Monday, June the 7th, 5 p.m. Before we get started, I'd like to have everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, any citizens' comments tonight before we get started? All right. Board members, have you had a chance to review and read our minutes from our last meeting?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
All right, any questions, concerns, comments?
No.
All right, I'll just ask for a motion.
I make a motion we approve.
Second the motion.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll approve our minutes from our previous meeting. We don't have any old business tonight, so we'll go ahead and move right on to new business. Our first beer applicant is the Smyrna Independent Merchants Association, Simply Smyrna. We have representation here tonight. All right, I'll call us out for a brief recess. And what's your name?
Jamon Brady.
Thanks, Jamon. And you're representing the Simply Smyrna event this year for the beer license?
Yeah, I'll
request?
be representing Smyrna Independent Merchants Association, who will be hosting a beer garden inside of Simply Smyrna.
Okay.
And you guys have done this beer garden already in the past at the
Yes.
event, correct?
Yes, I think this is the third or fourth year we'll be doing that.
Do you plan on having the same procedures in place as far as the ID checks and that sort of thing, keeping it in a confined space?
Yes, it'll be a roped off area. Entrance into the area will be open, but in order to buy beer tickets and buy beer, you'll be carded and all that stuff.
Great. Thanks.
And to your knowledge, there's been no problems in the past that have occurred?
Yeah.
I
To my
did that.
knowledge, it's ran very smoothly for this event and the one we'll be talking about next.
What are the hours of the event that the beer sales will be happening?
I believe for Simply Smyrna, the beer sales are from 6 to 9 or 6 to 10, I think.
6 to 10?
I believe 6 to 10, yeah.
And that's this Saturday, June 12th.
Saturday, June 12th, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you, Jamon. You can take your seat and I'll call us back into order.
I make a motion we approve the permit for the date of June 12th between the hours of 6 p.m. and 10 p.m.
I second that motion.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations, Jamon. You can pick up the license tomorrow morning in the lobby after 9 a.m. Okay, thank you. All right, and our next applicant is Depot Days. Again, Smyrna Independent Merchants Association. Representation, Jamon. You can take your place at the podium. We'll call us for a brief recess.
Double whammy today.
Just should have had you stand up. Sorry.
No worries.
All right.
What are the dates of this event, John?
So this one will be September 25th, the last Saturday in September.
So just Saturday, September the 25th, right?
And actually, we'll also be doing a drive-in, car drive-in on Friday night, and sales on that night will be, I believe, from 7 to 10.
Okay, so 7 to 10 p.m. beer sales on Friday, the 24th.
Yes.
And then what are the times for Saturday, September the 25th?
10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Thank you.
Same procedures in place for this event as the Simply Smyrna event?
Exact same procedures.
Roped off access,
Yes.
IDing everyone.
Yes, on this one, the location is a little different. We'll be roped off in front of the depot itself instead of in the parking lot as we have been in previous years, but it'll be roped off all the same. And the access to beer will go through a process in which people are ID'd and beer tickets are sold.
Okay.
And once again, to your knowledge, through these events, have you had any issues?
Nah, they've all ran actually very smoothly.
Any other questions from the beer board?
Will people who get carded have bracelets so you can differentiate between?
Yes,
who
sir.
and
Yes,
okay.
yes, sir. So yeah, once you are carded, you're given a bracelet.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, if no other questions, you can take your seat. Jamon, thank you. We'll call us back into order and ask for a motion.
Do we have to make a motion for both separate days, or can we do it all in one?
I think since it's the same thing, you could do it
Okay.
all in one.
I make a motion, we approve for the 24th between the hours of 7 PM and 10 PM, as well as September 25th between the hours of 10 AM to 4 PM.
I second that motion.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion's approved. And thank you again, Jamon. You can pick up that license as well. Double whammy tomorrow after 9 AM in the lobby. Thanks. Yeah. All right, next up, we have 7-Eleven doing business as, 7-Eleven, sorry. Representation? Great. Call us out for a brief recess. And what's your name, please?
Michael Rosenzweig.
Thank you, Michael.
What is your position with the company, sir?
I'm the area leader. I cover an area from North Georgia up to Nashville.
Now, this is not a new build, correct? This is just a
No. Correct. We just
rebranding?
rebranding.
Okay.
Rebranding.
Same operation, same store leader, same employees, same training in place for responsible sales. Just change the name on the building.
Great.
Now, do you guys check IDs at the point of sale, or is there something you type the birth dates into? or-
Both, actually, at the point of sale. Our new scanners allow us to scan the new IDs with the barcodes. But in addition, some of the older IDs, we manually enter. It won't allow a sale unless it's manually entered or scanned.
And the checks are in place that someone's just not entering the same birthday?
No, we get those reports daily.
Okay.
And we have had those in the past at other areas, and we catch them very quickly. The system spits out for the same birth date was entered on the same day, and we immediately know.
That's good. You have those preventative measures.
We also hire an independent company to test us.
Okay.
So they come through randomly and will issue green cards or red cards based on cigarettes and alcohol sales, so we want to be one step ahead.
Any other questions from the board?
You have read the Smyrna laws on beer sales and understand them, and
I was here when we opened this store 4.5 years ago as A+. We
Great.
built it from the ground up, yes, sir. Actually, got another one under construction on Sam Ridley, so we'll be back.
I thought that was this one, actually.
This one too.
And no, this is a different one.
All right, if no other questions? All right, Michael, thank you. You can take your seat.
Thank you.
Call us back into order and ask for a motion.
I make a motion, we approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations, Michael. You can pick up your license tomorrow morning in the lobby after 9 AM. Thank you. All right, next up, we have Dolancore doing business as Dollar General Store. Representation here tonight? I'll call us out for a brief recess. And what's your name, please?
My name is Carlos Jones. I'm the store manager.
Carlos?
Carlos
Gotcha.
Jones.
Thank you. And I interrupted you, I'm sorry. You said you were the store manager?
Store manager at this
Okay.
location.
Now, is this location already in existence and it's a new ownership, or is this a brand-new location being built?
It's a new location, but we like relocated
Okay.
from the old Nashville Highway store.
Okay, so you're just a relocation from the old Nashville
Right.
store to this store?
Right.
Okay.
Did you have beer on premise for sale prior to moving, or is this new?
At the old location, yes.
At the old location you
Yes.
did as well, too?
Right.
Okay.
Any problems at the old location for
No,
selling to
sir.
underage?
No, sir.
Procedures were all in place there as well?
Right, so like the last guy with the 7-Eleven, at the register, they're prompting us to, ask for ID, card and ID. So that's what we do.
What measures are in place to ensure that your employees are not selling to minors?
But like I said, we have like a check and balance system, with corporate, whatever, and they do, chime in or whatever like that. But like I said, at the register itself, I mean, you have to, ID the customer before the transaction even goes through.
So it's the point of sale transaction, you
Right.
have to enter in the driver's license
Right.
information?
Right, yes, ma'am.
And it's IDing everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you've read the laws regarding
Yes, ma'am.
the alcoholic beverages here in the town of Smyrna too?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions from our board? All right, Carlos, thank you. You can take your seat, and I'll call us back into order and ask the board for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve.
I'll second.
All right, we have a second to approve. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, congratulations, Carlos. You can pick up your license tomorrow morning after 9 a.m. in the lobby here. Okay? All right, that was the conclusion of our beer applicants for this evening. We'll go ahead and move on to the revocation or suspension hearings. And I'll turn it to Eric to start us off, or should I just go ahead and call the
Well,
first?
I'll give some kind of general information
Okay.
first for the board members and for the public as well.
Sure.
And then after that, we can call them each individually and go from there.
Okay.
So we're going to conduct this kind of like a mini trial. The rules of civil procedure and evidence don't apply in these situations, but you guys are essentially the judges. And so what that means is I'm going to call our detective to testify as to what took place. At any time, you can ask a question if you so desire. Once I am finished asking the detective questions, if there is an attorney for the defendant or attorney for the store or the store owner themselves who wish to ask the officer questions, then they can ask the officer questions. After that we have finished with my questioning of the officer, then, and everybody's questioning of the officer, then the store owner themselves can give any evidence that they wish to present through an attorney or otherwise. The main thing that we need to look at tonight is really what are our options. And after we've gone through everything, I will make a closing statement, the owner can make a closing statement, but the options that the board would have is, one, you can dismiss the complaint. If you find that the store did not sell beer to a minor, then that would be the appropriate response. If you find that the store did sell beer to a minor, then you kind of have two options. You can suspend or revoke the store. Suspension could be up to 1 year. However, it's typical that a suspension would be for 1 week or possibly 2 weeks. You can revoke the license. That would be, it's completely revoked, and they would have to come back after a period of 12 months and reapply. That is something that does not generally happen unless there have been multiple citations of the same store. I can tell you, as far as I know at this point in time, this is the first citation for each one of these stores that are on the docket today. And our ordinance also provides that at the time that the board imposes a revocation or suspension, that you may offer the owner to pay a fine of up to $2,500 if they are a non-responsible vendor. That doesn't mean that they're not doing the right thing. A responsible vendor is a classification that they would get from the state. And it's my understanding that we may actually have some of these stores that are responsible vendors. The rules change a little bit if you do have a responsible vendor. If they are a responsible vendor and they can prove that to you tonight, then the only thing that we can do is assess them a fine of up to $1,000. So we cannot suspend or revoke them if they are a responsible vendor. So that would be kind of the gist of how this is going to go from tonight. And I guess at this point would be time to call the first case,
All right.
unless you have questions.
Any questions, board? All right, we'll go ahead and call to order the Quick Sack Tobacco and Beer, permit number 00401.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Fuller. I'm the attorney for the Quick Sack store here representing them today.
Thank you, Steve.
My first witness would be Detective Rowlett. Sir, if you would, please state your full name
It's Christopher Rowlett,
and where are you employed?
the Smyrna Police Department here at the town of Smyrna.
And what is your position with the Smyrna Police
I
Department?
am a detective.
And on or about April the 29th of this year, did you have occasion to go to the Quick Sack Tobacco and Beer?
Yes, are we talking about the Quick Sack Tobacco and Beer on Amabile Road? Because we also have the
Yes.
Quick Sack.
This is the
Yes.
Okay.
543 Almaville Road, Smyrna, Tennessee.
I just want to make sure the Quick
Sure.
Sack down here doesn't have a different name.
Yep, thank you.
Yes, did you have occasion on April the 29th to go to that store?
I did.
And if you could, please tell the board what happened.
On that date, we had an underage, undercover, what we call confidential source, walk into the store and purchase an alcoholic beverage without being ID'd. The confidential source was able to purchase that and walk out without being forced to show any identification or anything like that.
Okay, and I'm holding up a photograph, but I think that it may also appear on the screen.
I can see it from here. That's the alcoholic
There you
beverage
go,
that you
it's on the screen as well there. And what is this?
It's hard to pronounce. It's like food. Okay, Four Loko. It's got a 10% alcohol volume is what it looks like.
Is this an alcoholic beverage?
It is.
And how old do you have to be to purchase this beverage?
21 years of age.
And you've already stated that the informant that you had go in was not 21 years of age.
They were not. They were only
And-
20 years old at the time.
And you observed them come out the store carrying that beverage?
Yep, and they walked straight to us.
Those would be my questions of the officer.
I don't have any questions. Anyone else from the board have any questions?
And
for-
you were stating that no ID was presented?
No ID was presented, no ID was asked for on this case.
Any further questions from the board?
No.
Okay.
This time, Mr. Fuller, if he has any questions of the officer.
Sir, I just have a couple of questions. To your knowledge, has that particular store, that particular location been in trouble in the past for any type of similar violations?
To my knowledge, no. I know that we had gotten various complaints from various locations, but to my knowledge, we have never issued them a citation.
Okay. The Almaville Road, Quick Sack
Almaville Road,
location.
Quick Sack Tobacco and Beer.
And did you, I believe you stated earlier that the undercover informant that went in was 20 years of age, is that correct? Okay, all right. How shy of 21 was this person?
I can tell you their birthday is in October of this year. So that's about the extent of what I can tell you. I know at the time, the confidential source was 20 years old, shy of, let's see, this was the end of April, 7, 8 months shy of being 21.
And I believe you stated earlier that the informant did not present an ID.
They were not asked for an
Okay,
ID.
they were not asked.
Yeah.
And had the informant been asked for an ID, would the informant have produced an ID?
Yes, they were instructed if they were asked for identification to produce their ID, and if they were refused to sell, to thank them and walk out.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have nothing further of this witness.
I do have a question, and I guess this would go to Mr. Fuller. What is the Quick Sack Tobacco and Beer on Almaville Road doing at this time to prevent this from happening?
Well, there's several things that they've done. First of all, the employee that was on duty at the time has been put through a training, you would call it a training course or training to better equip him to understand what he's doing and the dynamics of what he's doing. Now, that was done to an extent on the front end, but clearly that did not work in this particular instance. Now, the employee that was on duty at that time that sold the liquor to the informant, I have been advised by the client or by the client's owners, was ill during that time period. He was not feeling well, and so we can't be sure what was going through his mind that day when he sold that. I don't know if the way he was feeling impacted his interaction with that customer or not. And that's not an excuse. I mean, it is what it is. And we're not here today to dispute that it happened. So they've taken that steps with the employee. In addition to that, since this happened, I believe a ID scanner has been placed there in that store. Similar to what some of the individuals who were getting the beer permits earlier, the beer applications earlier, described. So this is a scanning device now that will scan the IDs. So they've taken those steps as well, in addition to putting these employees through some training to let them know that every time someone comes in and attempts to purchase alcohol of any type, any sort, any kind, ID has to be presented, and it has to be ID.
So the scanners are put in place now, or they're
They
going
are.
to be put in place?
They are, I've been told them.
Okay, so from now on, anybody that comes in, regardless if an employee's feeling ill, has to scan.
And I would say too, this really stood out to me when talking to the clients. This particular QuickSec location has been there for 10 years. Am I correct on that? 10 years. And my records indicate that they've not had any prior citations. And they shouldn't have. We don't want any citations at all. And there shouldn't be any citations at all. But that's a pretty good record over a 10-year period. So I would submit that as well. So these are folks, this is a business that's not had any prior citations. So I would ask that be factored into the board's ruling here today. And we would ask, taking the business's license away even for a couple of weeks could be crippling to the type of business that they do there at that particular location. So we would ask for some leniency today, if at all possible, given the history of this particular location, the fact that they've not had any prior issues, any prior problems. And we believe this was an isolated incident that has been taken care of and will not happen again. So, thank you.
All right, thank you.
If I may ask of the store owners there, is there any proof that you are registered as a responsible vendor with the state of Tennessee?
And I made a mistake. We talked over the phone earlier today, and I think I told you that they might be. They are not a responsible vendor. I did discuss with them today the option of doing that at some point in the future, and that might help with these types of situations. But they are not a responsible vendor.
Well, I suppose at this time, it would, unless the board has additional questions, it would probably be time for a brief closing. The way I see it is, sure, they've not been in trouble in the last 10 years. However, the training that they provided their employee the first time wasn't sufficient. They've now applying additional training, but they're retaining that employee at the store. They've not gotten rid of that individual. And, maybe this will be the only mistake he makes, but if he gets sick or doesn't feel well, next week, is he going to have the same lapse in judgment? I don't know. I would ask this board to suspend their license for the 2 weeks, or at the same time offer them, if they do not want to have their license suspended for 2 weeks, that they can pay the $2,500 fine.
I'll make a motion.
I think we could have Mr.
sorry.
Fuller, if he had
Sure.
comments that he would like to make to that.
Well, both of those proposals would be crippling for the business, where it sits and the type of business that they do. And I would submit, I understand your point on this employee, but they believe that they have taken the proper steps to remedy this issue from coming up in the future. And again, I would add, this is a business that's not had any prior problems. And this employee has been there for some time. I really believe this is an isolated incident. So I would again ask for, for some leniency on that. I've been told even a 2-week suspension will cause serious financial ramifications for their business.
Well, and
they have, I believe they've learned from this incident. So,
And Mr. Fuller, hopefully you heard me the first time. What I was saying is that we could suspend for 2 weeks, or at the same time offer for them to make a payment of $2,500 to not have their license suspended for the 2 weeks.
well, and they have advised me that unfortunately either option would be unduly burdensome and prejudicial to them from the perspective of the issue at hand here today. But it's up to you all to decide if you want to go with one of those options.
Is the first offense 2,500?
I think is that our options here, or?
So the ordinance under 223(3)A says the beer board may, at the time it imposes a revocation or suspension, offer a permit holder that is not a responsible vendor or a permit holder that is a responsible vendor but who is not compliant with the provisions and requirements of the state's Responsible Vendor Act, the alternative of paying a civil penalty not to exceed $2,500 for each offense of making or permitting to be made any sale to minors. And then it goes on to talk about other offenses for other things. So, no, the short answer is it's up to $2,500.
Gotcha.
I'm just asking the board
Gotcha.
to impose that fine of $2,500.
Well, and if I may speak, that would be the maximum. There's also a
Correct.
provision under that same ordinance for a fine of $1,000. Now, I understand that applies to a responsible vendor, but I would think there's got to be some middle ground somewhere. I mean, that's a maximum fine that we're asking for here for a business who this is their first offense. They've never had any issues in the past. I do not foresee they're going to have any issues in the future. So again, we would ask for some leniency. I suspect that they will learn their lesson if they're given a fine, but $2,500 for a store this size, again, would be much like a 2-week revocation of their license. It would be crippling to the business. And this is a business that's been a staple of that community, the community that it's in for a decade, 10 years. So, thank you.
Now, do we make a motion?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Do we explain our motion or just go with the motion? I feel the 2,500 is excessive for a first-time offense, I do. But I also feel that one or the other, regardless of what they may say is crippling, is what needs to be levied. So I make a motion that the business gets to decide between a $2,000 fine or a 2-week suspension.
They're going to accept the $2,000 fine,
Well,
if that's agreeable by them.
we've got to have a second on that motion, and then the board would have to vote before we can determine if that's
I
what
will
the-
second the motion for the client to either pick a $2,000 fine and/or the 2-week suspension. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so $2,000 suspension.
I guess we would need to set when that suspension would start. I would say tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Or they need to have some, well, They need to have some time in which to pay the fine if that's what they're deciding to do. So I would request of the board that they be given 7 days.
Okay.
And if they do not pay the fine within 7 days, then on that 7th day, their license will be suspended for the 2 weeks.
So you'll have 7 days then to either pay the $2,000 fine, or the suspension would take place at that time for the 2-week period.
And you may want to add a motion to that. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Hey, that's all right. Can I get a motion, please?
I make a motion that they have 7 days to pay the $2,000 fine, or at that point in time, the 2-week suspension starts to take place.
I second that motion.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, tonight, or next, I'm sorry, next we have permit 00474 held by Kwiksak, store number 632.
Are we free to leave?
Absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
And what's your name for the record?
Bimal Patel.
Neil Patel. Okay, and Eric, did you want to call?
Yes, I would call Detective Rowlett as the first witness. If you could just have a seat there in the front row, sir. I won't go through your credentials again since we all are aware of those, but I will say that on the 29th day of April 2021, did you have an opportunity to go to the Kwiksak number 632?
I did.
Okay. And what, if anything, occurred on that day?
On that date, we sent an undercover confidential source into the Kwiksak to purchase an alcoholic beverage. The confidential source was able to go in, select an alcoholic beverage, take it to the counter, and pay for it without being ID'd. The confidential source then left the business and brought it straight to us.
And that Kwiksak, do you know where that's located?
The one right here at the corner of Nissan and Eden Springs East.
And I'm going to show a photograph, which hopefully will be up on the back screen as well. Oh, maybe not. Oh, there we go. If you would look at that, do you recognize that photograph, sir?
Right. Yeah, that's what I call.
And is that the beverage that was purchased by the confidential source?
Yes,
And is that beverage, as you know it to be, an alcoholic beverage?
it is.
And the age for which someone would be allowed to purchase that beverage in the state of Tennessee?
21 years of age.
And our confidential source was 20 years of age?
20 years at the time of the purchase, yes.
Those would be my questions.
Any further questions from the board?
No.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Patel, would you take the podium, please?
Do you have anything you would like to?
No questions.
Ask of? No.
Do you have any questions of the officer?
No, sir.
Okay. Is there anything that you would like to tell the board?
I pretty much won't tell you the employee we had was a temporary employee. He has almost 10 years experience, and I'm not sure what happened that night. He just happened to overlook, I guess. But we've trained him again in case he could come to work for us again. He is not employed right now with us. Like I said, he was temporary, helping us out. As far as our improvement, we got a new POS system that verifies the purchase of alcohol or tobacco.
And this new point of sale is already in place and you're already using it?
Yes.
Everyone's being verified?
They've been verified and trained right now.
Is your establishment considered a responsible vendor?
No, we're not.
It is not?
No.
Detective, to your knowledge, any prior incidents at this location?
No, sir.
Yeah, we've been doing the 4 years, we've had no problem so far.
I stated it during my opening statements, but none of these stores have had any priors that we are aware of.
Okay, thank you.
What was the date again?
29.
April 29th.
29th again. And you just now started doing the training, or?
No, we've had the system in place, they've been training all this time.
All right, any further questions from the board?
The only question I have, sir, is you don't deny that there was beer sold to someone who was under the
No,
age of
I
21?
don't deny that.
So I suppose at this time would be time for a brief closing, and my remarks would be very much the same as they were the first time around. As I think the board has kind of looked at too, there's been some kind of delay here in starting to train. It does appear from what he said that the store clerk is no longer employed by this establishment, which is probably a good thing. But I would suggest that there be a 2-week suspension, or in lieu of the 2-week suspension, that they be given the opportunity to make a payment of $2,500. Since we need to probably put this in our motion, and I'll wrap it up in one, I would say that they should be given 7 days in which to pay the $2,500 fine. If they do not do so, that their suspension should start on that 7th day.
Being that this is your first
First offense,
offense,
yes.
I'm going to make a motion that we give you the option of either the 2-week suspension or a $2,000 fine. You have 7 days to pay that fine from today. And then if the fine is not paid, then we would continue with the 7-day suspension.
Okay.
2-week suspension.
Did I say that right?
The 2-week
2-week
suspension.
suspension.
Sorry, 2-week suspension, correct. You have
Okay.
7 days to pay the $2,000 fine. After that, if it's not paid, then we would have the 2-week suspension. Thank you.
I second that motion.
All right, we have a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Patel.
And it may be beneficial to let them know that those fines can be paid to the Treasury Department.
Okay. I'm not sure, Mr. Patel and Mr. Fuller, you both have that? You can pay those fines here in the lobby? Okay. All right, our next hearing tonight is permit 00495 held by Mapco Express. Do we have representation from the Mapco Express here tonight at the 1883 Almaville Road?
Can state that I have been on the phone with an individual from this Mapco Express, and they are well aware of that we were having the hearing tonight. I will proceed forward with Detective Rowlett.
Thank you.
Sir, did you have the occasion on April the 29th of 2021 to go to the Mapco Express in question?
Yes, the
And
one
what-
on Amable.
And what happened?
As the previous two, we sent an undercover CS who was 20 years of age into the location to purchase an alcoholic beverage. The CS went and selected an alcoholic beverage, came to the counter. The clerk actually questioned her and asked her if she was 20 years old. She stated yes, because she was instructed to tell them if she was underage if they asked. And the clerk proceeded to still sell the alcoholic beverage to the individual. The confidential source then exited the store and came straight to us and brought us the alcoholic beverage.
Those would be my questions of the officer.
When these operations are going on, are you just going by the informant's word?
No, sir, we actually have a recording of it.
Okay.
We have a device that's a recorder.
I just want to make sure that this, that's what they said went on and, okay.
No, we heard the whole transaction. We were actually sitting in our van in disbelief that the CS was questioned and the transaction still went through.
Any other questions from the board? All right.
So as I said before, I've been in contact with someone from this Mapco Express. They, just so that the board is aware, they informed me that they were a responsible vendor. However, the rules require that if you are a responsible vendor, that it's their obligation to prove that. It's not my obligation to prove that. So since they're not here to prove that they're a responsible vendor, my request would be that they have a 2-week suspension, or if they do not want to do the 2 weeks, and I think this is, of all the cases, probably the worst one, where they clearly ask if the individual was underage. They were told, yes, they are, and they still sold them the alcoholic beverage anyways. So I would ask for a $2,500 fine in lieu of the 2-week suspension. Up to them, that they would have 7 days from today in which to pay the $2,500 fine, and if they do not pay the $2,500 fine within the 7 days, then the 2-week suspension would take effect.
And are we determined if they have a time limit to prove the responsible vendor, or they had to do that tonight before the?
They had to do
They
that
would have
tonight.
to.
Okay, just making sure.
Tonight was our
Okay.
hearing, yes, sir.
Okay.
And they were well aware that was the hearing.
I'm going to make a motion that we fine the Mapco Express, store number 3316, $2,500, and/or they have the option for a 2-week suspension. They have, today's June the 7th, so they have 7 days from today to pay said fine of $2,500. And if the fine is not paid, then we'll begin the 2-week suspension.
I second that motion.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That is approved. All right, our next hearing is permit 00509, held by Circle K. Representation tonight? Great. Please step to the podium and state your name.
Tricia Blum. Tanya Klein.
Okay, Your Honor, Your Honor, Board, I would start with calling Detective Rowlett as the first witness.
Okay. You all can just sit right here next to the podium. Thank you.
Detective Rowlett, on the date of April the 29th, 2021, did you have the opportunity to go into the Circle K store number 3693?
Yes.
And what did you observe?
As previous, we sent the undercover CS in there, who was 20 years of age at the time, to purchase an alcoholic beverage. The CS went to the cooler, selected one, brought it to the counter. The clerk did ask for her ID, but the source presented it, and the clerk misread the ID. They do have a POS system where they're supposed to scan. That did not happen at the time. The clerk did not appropriately read the ID, thought the CS was older than they were, and sold the alcoholic beverage, and the CS brought it to us immediately after exiting the building.
So they had a scan system, but it was not used?
It was not used.
Was there something, do we know if there was something wrong with it, or did they just
There was
opted
not,
to use it?
actually, when we went in to speak with the clerk and I believe the manager who was here, she actually asked her, did you scan it? And she said no. She said, last time I scanned it, I got yelled at by an individual, so she didn't scan it.
And is this store located here in Smyrna?
It is. It's the one right down here, the Circle K. It's right across from Walgreens on Enon and Nissan, right across from the Quick Sack.
And I'm going to show you a photograph.
That's the alcoholic beverage. It's a
Okay.
Mike's Hard Green Apple. Or Mike's Harder, sorry, Green Apple.
And that's back there on the screen as well.
Mhm.
And then that the beverage that was purchased by the underage informant?
It is.
And is that known to you to be an alcoholic beverage?
It is.
And is it your understanding that the age of consent to purchase that item would be 21?
Yes.
Those would be my questions for the officer.
Any further questions from the board?
What does she mean by she misread it?
She had seen the birth date on the ID as, saw the year, but didn't read the month. So she had read 2000, but not the month. And this happened in April, and our CS's birthday is in several months later. So,
All right, if no other questions? All right, thank you, officer.
Does the store owner?
Do you
Yes.
guys, would you
Have any
guys like to
questions
ask
of
the
the?
officer any questions? Okay. all right.
If you wanted to step to the
I
podium.
was there.
Sure. So no questions for the officer. Do you have a statement, anything that you would like to
I would like to
say?
say a few things. So the employee, it is our store policy that IDs are scanned, and there is the capability there for them to scan them. However, this was a borrowed employee from another store. She was not my employee. And they all received training. However, I can say how I trained, but I can't say how anyone else trains, okay? When she failed the sting, I ran up to Rochelle and said, "What happened?" We asked if we could see the ID. And I asked her, "Rochelle, why didn't you scan it?" And she said, "Because, Miss Tanya, I get yelled at in my store all the time because people think you're trying to put their information in a database, and I just got scared." So she misread April, which the person's birthday wasn't until September. So she misread a 9 for a 4. And she typed it in, she was very careful to type it in. When Rochelle, she was terminated immediately. And when she went to court, I went with her, and I believe the judge's name was Lily. She said to Rochelle, "Why are you here? I watched the video. You did everything correct." She said, "I'm of a certain age. You mistook the 9 for a 4. They dropped the case against Rochelle. Immediately after this happened in my store, I made signs, they're all over my store, says, "Attention customers." As of today, every purchase for alcohol or tobacco will require your ID to be scanned. Then everybody in my store went through an entire training process again on the computer and passed all their tests. And so we do have a scanning system. It is required of all my people and my customers to present that ID. They don't like it. A lot of people walk out and won't purchase there or whatever because I've never heard of it before, but they think that we're putting information in a database somewhere. It's kind of crazy, but
My question would be, you said that she entered in the date.
she typed it in.
Does your system not alert you that the date is wrong? Or are you
No,
saying she?
it
she
wasn't
misplaced-
expired. She put 4, April. The month should have been 9.
But it should have been 10, because everyone that went through been 10
Oh.
instead of 9.
Well, that's what they told me was that it was a 9. So,
No,
Yeah.
the detective's been very clear each time that each person came up, he says 10.
is it a 10?
it is a 10.
Okay. Well, she typed in a
She
4.
has one in October.
She did type in a 4.
It also clearly states on the ID under 21 until that date.
Okay. Had she scanned the ID, she would have been fine because it would have told her. But she didn't. It wasn't expired, and she typed it in.
I understand what you're saying as far as she's not your employee, but, or you didn't train her, but she is in your establishment.
Yes,
And
she
her
was working there that day.
responsibility, right, her
You're correct.
responsibility is to ID everyone properly.
Yes.
And if, people are scared or intimidated doing that, then they shouldn't be in that position,
You're right.
so.
But I would like to say again that the judge threw her case out.
Any other questions, statements from the board? Okay, thank you. You can take your seat unless you have anything else to say. Okay, thanks.
Just briefly, in closing, I would say that what the criminal court did or did not do really has no bearing on this board because the level of scrutiny that something is provided in a criminal matter versus an administrative board are not the same. It's, you know, their excuse is, well, she mistake a 4 for a 9, or a 9 for a 4, something along those lines, but that really doesn't make sense because everybody's testified, the officer's testified, the detective has testified that the ID said that she was born in October. So there was not a mistake for a 4 or a 9 or, you know, anything along those lines. So my position would be the same as it has been in the previous cases, that this particular vendor should be suspended from the sale of alcoholic beverages for a total of 2 weeks. In lieu of that suspension, that they would be given the opportunity to pay a fine of $2,500. That fine to be paid within 7 days from today, and if they do not pay that fine, then their suspension would start for the 2 weeks. That would be my position to the board.
I make a motion that we fine the establishment $2,000 that will be to be paid in 7 days. Upon that 7 days, if it is not paid, their beer license will be suspended for a 2-week period.
I'll second. All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. And then again, the fine is payable here in the lobby as early as tomorrow morning after 9 a.m. Great.
Can I ask one more question? This is my first time.
Sure.
Do we get a copy of this or something?
You'll get like a receipt, you mean from if you're going to pay or from the hearing
So I
or?
can send it to my corporate office so that they can pay. They need to know what was said.
Gotcha.
The Treasury Department could type out a letter that would.
It's okay, we probably don't do it.
Okay. If you do, just call back tomorrow and ask for the Treasury Department, and they can probably type you out a letter.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's see, our final hearing tonight is permit 00542, held by Gills Market. Your representation? Yes, okay.
I would call as our first witness Detective Rowlett. Detective Rowlett, on April the 29th of 2021, did you have an opportunity to go to Gills Market?
Yes, we did.
And what did you observe?
Our confidential source, who's 20 years old, walked into the business, was able to select and purchase an alcoholic beverage. The clerk did ask for the confidential source's ID, but misread the month like previous individual, and only saw the year 2000, and still sold the alcoholic beverage to the underage confidential source. The confidential source brought it back out to our vehicle immediately after purchase.
And Gills Market, is that located here in Smyrna, Tennessee?
It is.
And I'm going to show you a photograph, which should be coming up on the board in the back. There we go. What is that?
It's a White Claw hard seltzer.
And is that the beverage that was purchased by the confidential source?
It is.
And does that beverage contain alcohol?
It does.
And to your understanding, what is the age of consent in which to purchase that beverage?
21 years of age in the state of Tennessee.
And I think you previously stated your confidential source was 20.
Yes.
No further questions.
And you also say the ID has under 21 on it, right?
ID clearly states along the picture on the side, under 21 till the date of birth.
Any other questions from the board for Detective? Thank you, Detective.
Thank you.
If the store owner would have any questions of the officer, she can ask at this time.
You can take the podium.
It's Eva Abdenour.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Eva Abdenour.
Eva, thanks. Eva, do you have any questions for us? Any statements you would like to make?
No, ma'am.
Do you all have the on or before date where your employees can easily see the date and know that's the date they at least should be of age before I can sell any type of beer?
Yeah,
alcoholic?
she trained good, but she usually look at the number. She said she just look at the year, so
Okay.
it was a mistake. But we refuse like 10 customer underage every day. This is first time.
Have you guys thought about changing up your system to where you maybe have to enter in a birthday to alleviate any problems in the future?
Yeah, we have that system, but she just didn't do it this time.
So you have a system where you're supposed to scan the ID?
She knew, and
So what type of action did you all take?
she's pretty good. She always see ID, and this is first time that happened. So
Are you ensuring that all your employees know that it's state law that they should be IDing everyone
Yes,
and
ma'am.
scanning it according to your point of sale
Yes, ma'am.
system? Okay.
yeah. That girl, she get cussed before from customer because she refused to sell him a liquor, like a beer. So
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
No question.
Okay, thank you, Eva. You can sit down.
So briefly, I'm somewhat concerned in this matter that it doesn't appear that the offending clerk has been given any additional training. They're just relying on the fact that she's a good employee. So my position would be that the beer permit should be suspended for a period of 2 weeks, and that in lieu of that they could be allowed to pay a $2,500 fine. That the $2,500 fine be paid within 7 days from today, and if it's not, then at that point in time, that the 2-week suspension should start.
I don't want to assume, but I just want to make sure this is not a responsible vendor.
They have not
Yes.
provided anything to indicate that they are a responsible vendor.
Okay. Any questions, statements from the board? Just need a motion.
I make a motion that the business be fined $2,000 to be paid in 7 days. If it's not paid within a 7-day period, that their beer license be suspended for a 2-week period.
Second that motion.
All right, we have approval and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so as early as tomorrow, Eva, you can pay the $2,000 fine here in the lobby, or you have the 7 days. And then if not paid in 7 days, the 2-week suspension will take place, okay? Thank you. All right, that concludes the hearings for suspension and/or revocation. I want to open the floor for any new business this evening. Let's go ahead and set the date for our next Beer Board meeting for Monday, July the 12th at 5 p.m. Any reports from officers, committee, or staff this evening?
I would just like to say, everybody have a great 4th of July coming up. Be safe and respectful.
I second that motion.
I'm sure we'll see you out of the celebration.
All right, if there's not anything further, just need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'm sorry. Second that motion. That we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you. We are adjourned.
Thank you.